The Wings of the King, a title given to the ones who will carry Luffy to becoming the King of the Pirates. This title has traditionally been used when talking about Zoro and Sanji, who, up till now, have been the strongest fighters and have had the highest bounties in the Straw Hats, next to Luffy. But the team dynamic has changed. Hello and welcome to Anime Only. My name is Brandon, and I believe we have a contender in the running for the new left wing of the king. Can Sanji hold his position, or does he have reason to be worried about Jinbe's addition to the crew? Let's take a closer look at these two and see which one is a better fit. Starting with renown. Jinbe easily has more of a reputation than Sanji. Before joining Luffy's crew, Jinbe was a warlord of the sea, which, if you don't remember, were the pirates under government control and were thus immune to the law, until the government disbanded them and started hunting them down, forcing Jinbe to become an officer in Big Mom's crew, an emperor of the sea. Well, ex-emperor, I guess. Staring her down and walking out on her to join Luffy's crew and leaving her with this zinger.
未来の海賊王のクルーになろうっちゅう男が4カごときに臆しておられるか
But even before he became a warlord, Jinbe was a well-known figure and a hero among his people. Having earned his black belt in Fishman Karate at a young age, Jinbe joined the Neptune army and gained a reputation as an even-tempered and fair man. He only resigned from the army when his hero Fisher Tiger created the Sun Pirates. And after Fisher Tiger died, Jinbe did his best to captain the crew and uphold Fisher's will until he received the invitation to join the warlords. Sanji, by contrast, is so unknown that the government still hasn't changed the picture on his wanted poster. Before joining Luffy's crew, Sanji was a nobody. He was a loudmouth cook at an out-of-the-way restaurant who would constantly get into fights with the customers and the other cooks. And he was always disobeying and arguing with the owner, the head chef, and the only reason he was even alive, Redfoot Zeph. However, having once been on the verge of starvation when he was young, Sanji refuses to turn someone away because they can't pay, and will even go out of his way to feed them. But even now, the only recognition that Sanji has ever gotten is because he's a Vinsmoke, not for his own merits. But Brandon, I hear you ask, Luffy doesn't care about what happened before he met them, so we shouldn't judge them by their pasts either. And you know what? You're absolutely right. So let's judge them by more current standards. Sanji is part of the Monster Trio, which consists of Luffy, Zoro, and him. This is due to their prowess in battle and their eagerness to do battle in the first place. So let's take a look at these accomplishments. The most important fights that Sanji has ever won were against, number 1, Jabra, the Wolf CP9 guy. And honestly, that whole fight was kind of a joke. Being sandwiched between Zoro's fight with Kaku and Chopper going ape Sanji's fight was kind of forgettable. And the only reason he ever even fought Jabra in the first place is because he refused to fight Khalifa. But I'll get into that part of his personality in just a minute. A far more impressive victory happened a little more recently against Queen. But again, this whole fight was all very convenient. Sanji doesn't have to train or learn anything new or gain any kind of insight against his opponent or anything. He's just suddenly a cyborg and stronger now. The other two fights that Sanji's won were against Kurobi, one of Arlong's top officers, and Absalom, that pervy, invisible, leopard, zombie, Frankenstein monster guy from Thriller Bark, neither of which was particularly intimidating. Jinbe, on the other hand, one-manned Gecko Moria, kept Arlong in check for years, went one-on-one with both Mihawk and Akainu, beat Big Mom at her own game, and is only the second person to survive leaving her crew. And in the name of fairness, I should mention that the only important person that we ever actually see Jinbe beat is Who's Who. However, even though he didn't actually defeat Mihawk and Akainu and Big Mom in battle, he walked away from those encounters with little to no damage. And experience shows Sanji wouldn't have. But okay, I understand it's not just about being the strongest or the better fighter. Let's take a look at their roles on the crew and what they've done specifically for Luffy. Sanji feeds Luffy. Being the ship's cook, he does indeed keep the whole crew alive. He understands what's necessary to keep the crew fed while at sea, and can make nutritious dishes with little to no ingredients. However, this isn't a cook-off. This is to see who's a better fit for hoisting Luffy up to his goal of becoming king. And Sanji is consistently disregarding Luffy's decisions, endangering the crew, and or abandoning them over a pretty girl. Again, I'll get into that aspect of his character in just a second. Jinbe is the helmsman of the crew. And while his job is important, the crew got along just fine for a very long time without him. The Thousand Sunny is Frankie's ship, and it always just kind of seemed right for him to man the helm. However, Jinbe does possess a trait that makes him uniquely suited to be the helmsman. That being, he's a fishman and can thus read the currents better than even Nami can, not to mention his knowledge of the surrounding ocean. As for what he's done for Luffy, well, there was that one time he gave him a blood transfusion, which goes right into my next point. They're very different personalities. Jinbe is very cool and calm, and he's very accepting of other people and their differences. Being a fishman, he's been treated with distrust or outright hostility by humans for his entire life. And I believe this has conditioned him to be a little more forgiving and empathetic to others. He laughs often, but never at others' expense. He's also been shown to be very traditional and polite, and treats people equally and with respect. Sanji, by comparison, is a very judgmental person. Let's start with how he treats women. And I'm not even talking about his simp nature. He has never once taken advantage of a woman. Unless you count the time he could go invisible and went directly to the woman's bath. But what I'm talking about is his refusal to fight women. While sounding very chivalrous, it just shows that he believes that they're beneath him. Take the fight with Maria. Here's a very dangerous enemy who is willing to put her life on the line for what she believes in. But because he feels like it would be wrong to fight a woman, he puts Robin directly in harm's way. And of course, Robin can handle it. But the point is, she shouldn't have needed to. It makes Sanji completely unreliable. Not to mention his severe homophobia. He wouldn't even thank these two for saving his life, which was only endangered due to his simp nature to begin with. He was disgusted to have their blood in him, which isn't exactly detrimental to the crew, it just kinda makes him a dick. And just as an aside, Jinbe has a higher bounty than Sanji and always has. Jinbe's bounty was at 438 million when Sanji was still flipping burgers at Baratier. Now, I'm not saying that we vote Sanji off the ship or anything. He's not useless. He is a good cook, and Luffy wouldn't want anyone else to replace him. But from the evidence, the two people who are the most beneficial to Luffy rising to Pirate King, and thus named the Wings of the King, are not Zoro and Sanji. It's Zoro and Jinbe. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with my assessment? Or do you think I'm being just a little bit unfair to Sanji? Like, I know I'm skipping over a few things and a few of his accomplishments. Like, I know that he beat the priest in the Sky Islands, and he's got a few other wins under his belt. So I am kind of just digging on Sanji a little bit with this video, and it's not completely serious. It is just for fun. But with that being said, I'd be really interested to hear any counter arguments, or maybe even more evidence to support my theory. Let's talk about this. Leave all that down in the comments, and while you're down there, like and sub and all that stuff. Oh, and I have a Patreon now. So if you want to help support my channel and my content, and get a couple of perks for your trouble, like early access to videos, behind the scenes, bloopers, rough cuts, invitations to live events, and of course, ad-free content, I'll leave a link to that in the description. Because I'll tell you right now, I would love to have an actual chair to sit in, because right now I'm kind of sitting on a filing cabinet. For just a couple bucks a month, you could help improve my channel and my back, and get more of what you want to see. I even have some rough plans for some Hippo merch. So if you're interested in seeing all that come to fruition, subscribe and hit the bell, and I'll keep you notified on my goings on over there. And with that being said, I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you next time.